What's up, guys? Welcome back to Viewer Castles. Today we're going to start off with a bralis. Castle level's at 22, so I'll jump into it on my archer. It'll be a little bit easy, but I'll still try to give good advice the best I can. Alright, a couple Cyclopses. These guys do hit kind of like monsters now. I probably should have actually tested it, to be honest, see if I can. No, he died beforehand. I'll try to test it a little bit later in the castle if you have another Cyclops, to see exactly how much they are hitting for, at this level at least. Okay, so there's another one. I'm gonna let this guy hit me. 232 is or 233 is actually pretty low from what I would think it would be at. I guess they scale just really, really high towards the later stages. It's still an okay unit. I might consider only having one of them in a group and use them more as a space control mob rather than a damage dealing mob, because 232, even if both of them hit you, it's not really going to do the damage you need it to do to actually kill someone. And they're not going to hit people frequently enough to make it really worthwhile. I think I would use it more as a space control mob. But the next group after that, the archer, is fine with the Cyclops. I might prefer charge in that specific circumstance, but we'll see how you use Cyclopses later on as well. This fire's still pretty bad. The charge damage was increased, but the fire damage is still really low compared to what it used to be at. Alright. IMAXs are fine at your level. They at least do some damage on this specialization. I don't really like them, but they're okay. If you want to use Ominous Orb, it's really the only way you can do it. But Ominous Orb in general has been nerfed quite a bit in the last patch. Alright, Jimbo, obviously a good unit. At level 26, he starts to get to a point where he can start one-shotting people, which is generally like what you want to be going for when you're using Jimbos. So not the best at level 22, better at level 26, so you'll probably want to try to get up there somewhat soon if you're going to use a lot of Jimbos. One is okay, though. Although I might substitute it for like a Smelly Warrior and, you know, Hungerbot and that sort of a combo. But it has to be in a very tight room with a lot of traps to make people take extra trap damage rather than trying to actually rely on their hits to do damage. Alright, I'm double pulling here, kind of accidentally, but I just sort of did it. Either way, it's kind of a time waster group rather than a DPS group. You have these two, a Defendatron and a Robo Shieldatron. Basically, anytime you have a Robo Shieldatron, it turns it into a time wasting group, because they're not scary by themselves. They're really only there to be tanking up damage, which is fine, but I don't know that it combos all that well together. You do have the one healer here, but there's not really any DPS in the group, so you can kind of take your time and just kind of deal with it. You killed off the Cyclops and there's no DPS really at all between the two groups. Alright, this Hungerbot plus Smelly Archer is actually only like 9 points in a group. I don't know if you just had a couple extra that you threw in there, but it's not really, like, if you have extra points, make sure to use them in that group, but I guess it's fine if you just had random extra points and you wanted to throw something in there. Although one archer isn't really going to do that much damage. Alright, Springboard Trap, not too big of a deal. The Scorpio's fine, he got a little bit of a buff last patch. A lot of the time I prefer Scorpios on the Pinstrike specialization now, rather than the hook, but I still think the hook is okay, even if you don't drag them onto this Springboard Trap. At the very least, you will you'll get a bite out of it, and his bite does reasonable amounts of damage. I'm not even sure if you got hooked onto this, if you would have the momentum to actually carry you into the next group. I'm thinking that you might not, but I would have had to see the layout again and looked at it specifically for that to see if it would work. Alright, and then the Pete Poundmore. Pete Poundmore hits quite a bit harder than he used to, so I think that's fine. Yeah, I think your castle's pretty much fine. You know, I talked about the Cyclopses, maybe you could substitute them. I think maybe also some of your early traps, the spike traps, you could kind of just avoid them without even doing anything. I think you should switch the ones out that you can like just walk around without taking damage to rotating flare traps instead of spike traps. But all in all, it's a pretty good castle. We'll jump into number 2 in just a second. Alright, next up we have ZaPristo. Castle level is a 26. Jump into it again on my archer.
Let's go to work.
Spider. Alright, so we have one of these vamps. I actually kind of like this. And I'll explain why. Let me see how much they hit for, first of all. 150 on that. Vamp does about 350. Charge does about 220. So the reason why I like this so much is that it combos pretty well together. If I would have gotten hit by that charge, I think it forces a hit from the vamp. Like, I aggro this, the charge comes down, if I get hit by that, the vamp's already charging at me, and probably going to get a free attack in. So that's kind of a free, you know, spider hit, charge plus vamp will probably be like a free 500 damage. It's not bad. It's unique. Maybe not like the best DPS group you could do, but it's not a bad amount of DPS. Like, it's pretty high. As I've kind of said before, they changed charge Cyclopses so much that normally I would say 2 charge Cyclopses is bad, but since they changed them to do damage rather than just utility, I think it's fine to have multiple charge Cyclopses in the same room. One thing that I'll say about your castle to begin with, by the way, Smelly Warriors at level 26 hitting for 800 is kind of crazy. But one thing I will say is if you're trying to make a really effective castle, this linear room here is the weakest room you can use. It's just very easy to see what's coming, to line up a shot. Like, I know I want to kill off this Defendatron before it links to the, well, it's not a linked Defendatron, but either way, you notice how I can kill it very easily and then isolate the IMAX by itself without having to worry about it. It's just easy to see what's coming and to figure out a plan of action of what to do. Like, I can headshot this from this far away. Makes it a lot easier for me. Rather, if there was a corner and I would have to get close to that and aggro it like with my face or something, it would, you know, these vamps might get a few more hits in or something like that. It's just very easy when you can see what's coming. So that's the first thing that I'll say about the rooms themselves. It's definitely something you'll want to look into. Alright, I'll volley this, even though it won't do all that much. I do like the AoE Defendatron on these trash mobs that can be easily one-shot volleyed. I think that's good. This Zeke should be farther back, and obviously the room itself is kind of bad for just any mobs in general, like this, that you can see and kind of headshot and one-shot it or something. High priority targets need to be behind things and often hidden from the attacker as long as they can. I like this one. The battering rams were a nice distraction for making the Zeke hit. Actually, I wasn't even paying attention to the Zeke when it fired at me. I just heard the shot and kind of dodged it, but I didn't even notice it was up there, to be honest. Alright, that's fine. Killer Crabs, not my favorite unit. Just because they don't really do anything. All they do is tank a little bit of damage, but they don't tank for a specific unit like a Defendatron would. I think they're only useful in a castle that's going for, you know, time wasting and trying to make the timer expire. I like this group. I generally like these smelly warrior groups. I think that maybe one of these smelly archers switched out for a hunger bot on like Pinstrike would be okay, although it's not really necessary. But I like that, you know, I have this small box of room to work in, and this smelly warrior, if he was swinging right here, I have to work on these sides then, and then if this guy's charging me, I have to go back here, try not to take extra trap damage. It works out well that way. The chance is there to do a lot of damage to the attacker with that group. Alright, I'm gonna isolate the healer, and then work on the Mega Mutton. Mega Muttons are fine, especially I think only at level 26 they're super viable. I think all other levels right now, they're a little too weak. At level 22, their fire isn't strong enough to justify them. Their auto attack damage is only like 100 to 150, and the charge is really the only thing that does a decent amount of damage. But even if you land in the fire, you're not gonna die. And then on level 26, they do about 400 to 450 auto attack damage, which makes them a lot more worth it. Their fire still doesn't do all that much, their charge is still pretty reasonable in damage. But their auto attack is what really makes them good. It goes up more than double, from 22 to 26. And then at level 30, they're easily one-shot by level 32 heroes, so it makes them, again, not really viable. Alright, boss room. The healers are pretty easy to isolate here. And then really I only have to deal with this, stun lock him for a little bit. I think maybe warriors would have a little bit more trouble, as they have to kind of run around more to kill off the healers and then get close to the Robo-Shieldotron while the Pete Poundmore's hitting them. Archers are pretty good at dealing with Pete Poundmores though, if they have bear traps or Caltrops available to them. I mean, it was a pretty good castle, but I think the rooms themselves are your main issue if you're having trouble defending. So we'll jump into number 3 in just a second. Alright, next up we have Freddy 51, castle level is 21. So again, I'm going to do it on my archer. I think it's just easier for me. I'll do like level 20s and below on my knight, but for 2 levels above, I think it's easier for me to give good advice if I use my archer so I can actually see what's going on, rather than just trying to like not die. Alright, so chickens or snowmen, charging Cyclops. I like the charging Cyclops, pushing you back onto the spike trap. The chickens slash snowmen seem a little pointless. We'll see if there's anything to combo with them in the next group. And the archers obviously combo well with the Cyclops as well, although the stun is quite a bit lower than it used to be. Alright, so yeah, just the chickens in general seem a little bit pointless to me. Although they do reasonable damage now, I guess. I don't know, I got hit for like 250 at level 32, which is kind of high. I'm not sure if it's because they're snowmen now and they buffed them just to be funny, or if that's actually how they're going to be as chickens again. If that's the case, I mean, they are high damage, but they won't hit all that often. Because they're so weak. Alright, Squidly. Alright, so again, charging Cyclops with the Zeke combo. It's a good combo. The problem is, even if the Cyclops hits, even at level 28 Cyclopses, the stun isn't long enough to hit more than one arrow, which is kind of unfortunate. I preferred Cyclopses as a utility unit rather than a damage unit on charge. This room specifically, I think, is this like linear corridor, but the outside version it looks like. I would rather you use linear corridor because of this right here. You notice how I was able to pull this from all the way back here, and as this Pete Poundmore is walking around, I can get headshots on him and just kind of like hit him as he's walking around and then bear traps, and it's very easy for me to deal with it. The whole reason is because you can shoot over these open walls like this. So it's better to use linear corridor rather than this one. It's just a closed closed version of this room, I guess. Alright, Smelly Warriors on this specialization, they do like okay damage, but it's not high enough to like, I just can volley them and run around. As a lower level, I would have to do a little bit more. I would have to throw out a couple more bear traps and like auto attack them a couple times. But the damage isn't that high that it's like super scary. And also, if you guys have seen other things that I've done, like where I will like bear traps and then run away from them, you can do the same with Caltrops. You run away from them far enough, they'll drop their shields if you get far enough away, and then you can just either volley or headshot them down or auto attack them or whatever. There's ways to deal with them pretty easily. Personally, Smelly Warriors are only good, in my opinion, when they're used in conjunction with other units that are providing space control, and it's really meant to force trap damage rather than actual minion damage. But if it happens, great, you know. Again, I'm a little confused by the Snotters here. Obviously, you could see that I just volleyed over this, and they all died. I thought that I was going to see a Dr. Skull in the next room. That would have been good to combo well with this, but just the Snotters by themselves, I don't think they're good enough. They're too low hit points. Same here. I would like Dr. Skull. Like, I would rather a Dr. Skull than the Puppeteer. I think Puppeteers are just better as support rather than Dr. Skulls being on Raising Hell. I think they're a little bit better. at least at this level. I would say that lower levels, it's fine to have bone puppeteers on Raising Hell, because I think people just don't have the AoEs to deal with them in like the first 10 levels or so of the game. But at like level, 12, 14, somewhere in there, people start to get their big AoEs like Volley and King Dragon Slash. I don't remember the exact levels that you get them at. It might be earlier than that, but that's at least how I think of it. Probably because I had some problems with Bone Puppeteers. They were actually overpowered back when I was going through those levels. They got nerfed after that. But basically they could like resurrect through an entire castle. Now they have to stay within a certain range of the hero to start resurrecting things, so it makes them a lot weaker. But it used to be that you could do massive pulls over like multiple rooms, have them flank around and start resurrecting the entire castle behind you, and you wouldn't even know it until you get to the boss room. The door wouldn't open and you start to go through, and you realize there's 200 defense points of raised skeletons behind you, which was really annoying. You could barely ever get the timer unless you caught it before it got out of control. But that's all done away with now, so I think Bone Puppeteers are probably just a little bit worse at the lower levels on Raising Hell. But Dr. Skull is still pretty good. I would have him always with a Defendatron most likely, and just, resurrecting another group of minions. The minions themselves do reasonable damage. Sometimes they survive volleys if someone's DPS is too low, but more than likely he just will resurrect a couple waves, take some time, and if you're lucky he'll force a potion out if the skeletons get too close or pin a hero down or something like that. But with that said, that is number 3, so we'll end the video here. If you guys enjoyed what I do, as always, please subscribe. If you want to be a part of Eurocast, you can email me at frenzycastleruns@hotmail.com. There's a link to that in the description, a link also to a spreadsheet that I post kind of all the people that I'm planning on running. I update it every couple of days, so if your name doesn't pop up there, just wait for it. Most likely I got the email. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.